Hello, Bobcats. It's Mrs. White. We're still in 5th grade math, and we're in Chapter 3. You can see that we're now actually starting Lesson 4. We're still in division. This time we're looking at patterns. It is a 5th grade standard, so you have to learn it in 5th grade. I'm hoping that at the end of the lesson today, you'll be able to use patterns to divide multiples of 10, 100, and 1,000 mentally. So hopefully all in your mind. Why, Mrs. White? Why are you making me learn this? What's the main idea? Well, you already know. It's a 5th grade standard. You have to learn it to be ready for 6th grade and all the grades that are coming. But fluency has to do with how quick you solve things or how quick you can do a task in front of you. So I'm hoping today you'll be able to use those patterns to divide mentally. The patterns today will help you solve things quickly. So that way you have time to do all of the other things you have on your to-do list. All right, what do you already know about patterns and multiples of 10? Since I already told you our goal today has to do with patterns and solving things in your mind, well, something I already know is 5 times 10 is 50, 5 times 100 is 500, and then 5 times 1,000 is 5,000. So from my experience, I know there's a pattern, and the pattern has to do with those zeros. I can see that 10 has 1 0, and so does 50. 100 has 2 zeros, and so does 500. 1,000 has 3 zeros, and so does 5,000. So from my experience, I know that there is a pattern when multiplying by multiples of 10. When you are able to notice how many zeros there are, or the power of 10, it will help you in seeing if your answer is reasonable. Now remember, those steps are helpful in reaching our goal today of multiplying and seeing patterns. And step 1 that I think will help you today is to divide the basic fact. And we'll know what that looks like in just a few minutes, but divide that basic fact. Then think about the place value. So divide, think about the place value, and solve. Finally, is it reasonable? You need to know if the answer makes sense. Don't go on to the next problem if you haven't stopped to think about whether or not your answer is reasonable or makes sense. So divide, think about place value, solve, and then think, is it reasonable? All right, we're at example 1, math in my world. A monarch butterfly can fly 240 miles in 3 days. Suppose it flies the same distance each day. How many miles can it fly each day? Well, I underline the question. Question mark means I have to have an answer. How many miles can it fly each day? Well, 240 miles in 3 days. So I'm going to take 240, the dividend, and I'm going to put that into 3 equal groups. 3 is the divisor. So 240 divided by 3. Okay, well, I know that step 1 is the basic fact. Divide the basic fact. 24 divided by 3. So ignore those zeros. Just look at the facts. I know 24 divided by 3 is 8. So step 1, divide the basic fact. 3, okay, it's 8. Step 2, think about the place value. Well, this is 2,400, and the last one is 24,000. Well, I know that in the problem it said 240 miles. So this isn't going to give me the right answer. That's not the right place value. Thinking about the place value, and this is the problem it is. 240 divided by 3. Okay, so I know we're in the hundreds place value. So step 3 is solve. Well, I need a 0 because there's 1 0 there, so I better put my 0. And I'm going to see if it's reasonable. I think 240 miles in 3 days would be 80 miles each day. So if I multiply by 3, I should get 240. Look, I did. So the butterfly can fly 240 miles every day. I know I have the right answer. All right, math in my world. We're on example 2. A cow eats 900 pounds of hay over a period of 30 days. How many pounds of hay would the cow eat each day at this rate? Well, there's my question mark. Got to underline that. How many pounds of hay would they eat each day? Well, I have 900 divided into 30 equal groups. And I'll get my quotient, H. I'll get the answer. Well, I get to cross off some of these. So if I think about the basic fact, step one is the basic fact. I know 9 divided by 3. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. So now I just have to figure out how many zeros for this pattern. Well, I can cross out the same number of zeros. Okay, well, if I cross off 1 here, then I also get to cross off 1 here. Okay, well, step 1, the basic fact, 9 divided by 3. Step 2 is place value. Well, 90 is in the tens place, so I better add 1 0 to solve. So 900 divided by 30 is 30. And I'm going to see if it's reasonable. Well, if I multiply 30, my answer, times 30, because it's 30 days, I should get my dividend. I should get that 900. Well, I know anything times 0 is 0. I got to put that 0 as my placeholder. 3 times 3. Oh, look, I did get 900. So I know that the correct answer is H is equal to 30. Or if I look at the question, how much hay would that cow eat each day? Well, the cow will eat 30 pounds each of those 30 days. All right, I'm moving right into that independent practice in your book. And we have to divide mentally. So we're going to divide in our mind. 800 divided by 2. Well, we can start with that basic fact of 8 divided by 2. Because the 8 is the first digit and the 2, I can see, sorry, this is not as clear as I'd like. I can see that 2 does go into 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. The basic fact is 4. Step 2 is the place value. Think about the place value. Well, I know 2 zeros is the hundredths place value, so I can solve by making sure my answer is also in the hundredths place. Is it reasonable? Well, 400 times 2, or 2 equal groups, does give me the 800. I know I have the right answer. Okay, problem number 3. Well, I know 3 divided into 9 is 3. That's the basic fact. Step 2, think about place. Well, there's tens, hundreds. So I can solve. I can make sure my answer is also in the hundredths place. I think the answer is 300 in each of those 3 groups. It's reasonable. I did get 900. Now the last one, the basic fact, step 1, I can divide 15 divided by 5. Well, that's 3. And then there's 1 0 in the pattern. So I think the quotient is 30. Let's see if I have the right answer. If I multiply the number of groups, the divisor, by my quotient, I do actually get 150. So the answer is 30 goes in each of those 5 groups. I am ready to move on. All right, we're still in independent practice. We're going to divide in our mind, divide mentally, right? We're trying to build that fluency. And I'm going to go ahead and try number 6. If I look at problem 6, 450, the dividends getting put into 9 groups, the divisor, I can start with the basic facts. Step 1. Well, I know 9 divided goes into 45 is 5 times. 9 times 5 is 45. Step 2, if I think about the place value, we're in the hundredths place, or we have 1 0 that's unaccounted for. I better put that 1 0 so that my answer matches that dividend. And I can check and see if I'm reasonable. See if my answer is true, is going to work. 50 in each group times 9 groups. Oh, I do have 450 I started with. I know that it's correct. I can move on to problem 7. I'm going to start with the basic fact. How many times does 4 divide into 28? Well, I know that 4 times 7 is 28. Step 2, place value. Well, there's a 0 for the hundredths place. I better have 1 0 in my answer too, so that they match. That's the pattern. I can check and see if it's reasonable because I surmise the answer to be 70. 70 into 4 groups is 280 as the dividend. I know I am correct. All right, now we're moving on. We're still on divide mentally, but something's different. I can see that we have a 0 that's now in our divisor. We have massive groups, not just 7 groups, 3 groups, or 6 groups. We have a group of 60. So, and we also have a group of 30 and a group of 70. I'm going to go ahead and try number 8. And I'm going to follow those same steps. I'm going to start with the basic fact. 18 divided by 6. Well, I can do that in my mind. I know that 6 times 3 is 18. Step 2 is think about the place value. Well, I can see there's 1 0 making it the hundreds place, and I see there's 1 0 here. If I can cross off 1 0 on both sides, there's none left. So there's no zeros in my quotient. I think that I'll have 3 equal groups of 60. So I'm going to see if 3 is the answer. And I'm going to say 60 times 3. You could also do 60 plus 60 plus 60. But if I multiply that, I do get 180. Now remember, in this pattern, if you cross off a 0 in your dividend, you can cross off 1 in your divisor. They go together. I know 24 divided by 3 is 6. I also know that the pattern tells me that place value, I get to cross off both zeros. So I'm done. I can check and see if 30 in each group would really give me 240. And it does. I have the right answer. I know 42 divided by 7. That's 6. I can cross off a 0 in this pattern. So then I know there's nothing left to deal with. And 70... right? We have 70 groups times 6 in each group does give me 420. All right, we're still in independent, but this time they're asking you to do a little bit of algebra. Okay, we got to figure out what the unknown is. What is that K equal? What's that quotient? What is Z equal? And what is S equal? Well, I'm going to go ahead and solve mentally to find my quotient. And I'm definitely going to do 11 because I have to figure out what K equals. My daughter's name's Kate, so I want to do the K. So if I look at problem 11, I'm going to start with step 1, the basic fact. Well, I know 3 goes into 18. 3 times something is 18, and that's 6. Step 2, place value. Well, I'm going to get rid of one place value on both. So that leaves me with 1 0 that's not crossed off. So I think the answer is 60 in each group. Let me see if 60 is the quotient. 30 times 60. And if I multiply these, I should get my dividend. And if I get the dividend of 1,800, I know I have the right answer. And look, I got 1,800. So I believe that K is equal to 60. I know I have the right answer. I can move on. All right, let's try 13. So if I look at 13, I have 2,400, and I'm going to divide it by 300. If someone told you to solve that in your mind, you would probably laugh at them. But after today's lesson, you can see that knowing these patterns, it helps you. You can do 3 into 24. 3 times something is 24, and you know 3 times 8 is 24. You can also see that you can cross off 2 of the place values, and there's no zeros left. So you would surprise that friend that said 2,400 or 2,400 divided by 300, you would just say, oh, it's 8. And they would say, how would you know that? You don't have to give up your secrets, but we can check to make sure. And we can see that we do have the right answer. Okay, problem solving. A goal is to solve mentally. All right. A group of 10 people bought tickets to a reptile exhibit and paid a total of $130. What was the price of one ticket? Well, here's a question. Any question mark tells me I better answer. How much did one ticket cost? Well, $130 was the price they paid. But how many people paid that? Well, $130 was actually split into 10. Because there's 10 people going to the exhibit, that's 10 groups that had to pay, or 10 people had to pay. Well, I know that 1 divides into 1 one time, or 1 divides into 13 13 times. I also know that the pattern of place value is if I cross off one place value in the dividend and one in the divisor, they take care of each other. So each person, I think, would have to pay $13. I concluded the answer is $13 was the price of each of those tickets. Is it reasonable? I can check. Well, $13 times the 10 tickets, because 10 people went, so they had 10 tickets. And then if I multiplied this, I would see that I do have $130 paid. Each one did, in fact, pay $13 to hold those snakes. All right, I'm still in problem solving. Moving to 16. A video store took in $450 in DVD rentals during one day. If DVDs rent for $9 each, how many DVDs were rented? So how many did they rent? Well, I know that they got $450. That's my number I'm putting into groups. That's the dividend. Well, and each one costs $9. So I'm going to divide by 9. That's the divisor. Start with step 1, that basic fact. 9 times something is 45. Well, I know 9 times 5 is 45. I also know that I can think about place value, and I have 1 0 on this side, and there's nothing on this side. So I have to make sure that my answer, the quotient, also has that 0, because it's not crossed off. So I think the question says, how many DVDs were rented? Well, I think they rented 50 DVDs. I understand it to be 50, and I can prove to you that it's reasonable, because if they rented 50 DVDs, and each of those DVDs cost $9, well, that would be the $450 that they brought in. It makes sense. All right, hot problem. Find the error. Remember, error is a mistake. Sonia is finding 5,400 divided by 90 mentally in her mind. Find her mistake and correct it. So they tell me she made a mistake. I have to find it. Well, let's look at her problem. She has 2 zeros in 5,400, and she's dividing that by 90. Well, if I look at 90, I only see 1 0. If I cross off 1 0 here, I can only cross off 1 0 in 5,400. They go together. It's a pattern. So really, Sonia's mistake is she crossed off too many zeros in that dividend. You can cross off 1, but then you have to leave 1 because there's not a matching 0 in the divisor. So I can do the basic fact, which she did for me. Thank you, Sonia. 9 times 6 is 54. But if I think about the place value, it should have been 60, not just 6. And I can prove that it's reasonable, or that the mistake was she forgot her 0 in her quotient. Because if I multiply, I'm going to get 5,400. Now, if we check Sonia's answer, let me go ahead and tell you why hers is not reasonable. 1, she didn't have that 0, but you can also take the 9 times her answer, which is 6, and she gets 54, but that's not what we have here. We should have had 540. So she should have something that says 540. She's missing her 0. So I know that's her mistake. All right, Bobcats, what did you learn today? I want you to stop and think about what you learned today. In summary, today I learned that when you are dividing by multiples of 10, there's a pattern. And if I figure out that pattern, I can solve math problems in my mind that can be difficult, right? The place values match. So in summary today, I learned that knowing those patterns can help you solve quicker with more fluidity. So hopefully that helps you with your independent work today. Thank you for your attention.